The blood spreading across Olivia Grant's torn skirt was the color of rust against the faded blue fabric, and she pressed her hand harder against the wound on her thigh, gritting her teeth as she stumbled behind the livery stable in Red Cloud, Nebraska. It was August of 1878, and the heat made everything shimmer like a mirage, but the pain was real enough to keep her anchored to consciousness. She had been hauling water from the well behind the boarding house where she worked when the loose iron bucket handle had snapped, sending the metal edge slicing through her leg like a hot knife. The bleeding would not stop, but she would die before she asked anyone in this town for help. Olivia had learned young that depending on others only brought disappointment or worse. Her mother had died when she was 12, leaving her with a father who drank away his grief and then drank away everything else. By the time she was 15, he had gambled their Missouri farm to a man who did not care that a young girl came with the property. She had run, stealing a horse in the dark and riding until Nebraska seemed far enough. 3 years of working herself to exhaustion, sleeping in corners, eating scraps, and never asking a soul for anything she could not earn herself had made her iron-willed and solitary as a winter wolf. She leaned against the weathered boards of the stable, the world tilting dangerously. Her fingers were slick with blood, and she could feel her heartbeat pounding in the wound. The main street of Red Cloud stretched before her, dusty and busy with afternoon traffic. Wagons rolled past, men shouted to each other. Somewhere a dog barked. No one looked her way. That was how she wanted it. "Miss, you are bleeding something fierce." The voice came from above, and Olivia's head snapped up, despite the wave of dizziness that followed. A man sat astride a bay horse, looking down at her with eyes the color of winter sky. He was young, maybe 25, with sun-darkened skin and dark hair that needed cutting. He wore the practical clothes of a working cowboy, chaps dusty from the trail, a worn hat shading his face. Something in his expression made her bristle, some kind of concern that she neither wanted nor needed. "I'm fine," she said, forcing the words through clenched teeth. "Move along." He did not move along. Instead, he swung down from his horse with an easy grace that spoke of years in the saddle. Lucas Garrison had been trailing cattle for the better part of a decade, ever since his parents had died of fever when he was 16. He knew trouble when he saw it, and this young woman was drowning in it while pretending the water was not even wet. "You are not fine," he said, keeping his voice level and calm like he would with a spooked horse. "You are losing a lot of blood, and unless you want to pass out in this alley, you need to let me help you." "I do not need your help." Olivia pushed herself more upright, and the movement sent fresh blood seeping between her fingers. Black spots danced across her vision. "I can manage." Lucas took a step closer, holding his hands out to show he meant no harm. "I am sure you can manage most things, but right now you look like you are about to fall over. Let me at least get you to the doctor." "No doctor." The words came out harsh, almost panicked. Olivia had no money for a doctor, and she would not be indebted to anyone. Debts had to be repaid, and people always wanted more than you could give. He studied her for a long moment, taking in the proud set of her shoulders despite the pain she was clearly in, the way her jaw was locked tight, the fierce independence burning in her dark eyes even as her face went pale. He recognized something in her, some echo of his own determination to never be vulnerable, never be at the mercy of others again. "All right," he said quietly. "No doctor. But I have a room at the hotel, and I have some medical supplies in my saddlebag. Trail work means you learn to patch yourself up. Let me help you there, and then I will leave you be if that is what you want." Olivia wanted to refuse. Every instinct she had honed over 3 years of survival screamed at her to send him away, to handle this alone like she handled everything. But her leg was on fire, and the blood was still flowing. And the truth was, she might actually die if she did not get help soon. Pride was one thing. Stupidity was another. "Fine," she whispered, "but I owe you nothing." "I am not asking for anything," Lucas said, and he meant it. He stepped closer and carefully put an arm around her waist, taking most of her weight. She was light, too light, like she had not been eating enough. "Can you walk?" Yes, she could barely walk, but she locked her knees and forced herself to stay upright. He moved slowly, leading her around the front of the stable to where his horse waited. The bay gelding stood patient as Lucas helped Olivia lean against the saddle. I'm going to lift you up, he said. It will hurt, but it is better than trying to walk to the hotel. She nodded, not trusting her voice. When he lifted her, the pain was bright and immediate, stealing her breath. He settled her in the saddle and then swung up behind her, one arm firm around her waist to keep her steady. She could feel the solid warmth of him at her back, the strength in the way he held the reins with his other hand. It had been so long since anyone had touched her with anything resembling gentleness that she almost did not recognize the feeling. The ride to the hotel took only minutes, but each jostle of the horse sent pain shooting through her leg. She bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood, refusing to make a sound. Lucas felt the way she tensed against him and kept the horse to the smoothest walk he could manage. The Red Cloud Hotel was nothing fancy, just a two-story building with rooms for travelers and cowboys passing through. Lucas dismounted and then carefully lifted Olivia down, carrying her this time because she was clearly at the end of her strength. A few people on the street stared, but he ignored them, pushing through the hotel door with his shoulder. The clerk behind the desk looked up, eyes widening. Mr. Garrison, what happened? Accident, Lucas said shortly. Which room is mine? 7, upstairs to the left. The clerk was already coming around the desk. Should I fetch Dr. Henderson? No, Olivia said, finding her voice. No, doctor. The clerk looked uncertain, but Lucas was already heading for the stairs. He took them carefully, aware of every wince she tried to hide. Room 7 was small and plain. Just a bed, a chair, a washstand, and a window that looked out over the street. He laid her on the bed as gently as he could. I need to look at the wound, he said, moving to his saddlebags, which were lying on the floor beside the wardrobe. He pulled out a leather pouch that held needles, thread, clean cloth, and a small bottle of whiskey. I am going to have to cut away part of your skirt. Olivia wanted to protest, but the skirt was already ruined, and she was too tired to care anymore. She nodded, closing her eyes. She heard him move to the washstand, pouring water into the basin. Then he was beside the bed, and she felt his hands on her leg, carefully moving the torn fabric aside. The wound was deep, a gash about 4 inches long on her outer thigh. It was still bleeding, though slower now. Lucas pressed clean cloth against it, applying pressure. This is going to need stitching, he said. And it is going to hurt. I have whiskey if you want it. I do not drink, Olivia said. Her father's face swam up in her memory, red and angry and reeking of cheap liquor. Then bite down on this. He handed her a leather strap from his bag. She took it, pride stinging more than the wound. She had sewn up torn clothes 100 times, but never her own flesh. Lucas worked quickly and efficiently, cleaning the wound first with water and then with a small amount of the whiskey. Olivia did bite down on the leather, her hands fisting in the rough blanket beneath her. He threaded the needle and began to stitch, his hands steady and sure. It hurt worse than anything she had felt in years, but she did not cry out. You are tougher than most men I know, Lucas said quietly as he worked. But you do not have to be this tough. It is all right to admit when something hurts. Admitting it does not make it hurt less, Olivia said through gritted teeth. No, he agreed, pulling another stitch closed. But it does make you human. She did not respond to that, focusing instead on breathing through the pain. Lucas finished the stitching and wrapped the wound with clean cloth, tying it securely. Then he sat back, wiping his hands on a damp rag. You need to rest, he said. And you need food. When was the last time you ate? This morning. It had been yesterday morning, but she was not about to tell him that. He did not believe her. He could see it in the hollows of her face, the way her collarbone stood out too sharply. Stay here. I am going to get you something from the restaurant downstairs. I have no money to pay you back. Olivia said, the words bitter in her mouth. I did not ask you to pay me back. Lucas stood, looking down at her. Sometimes people just help because it is the right thing to do. Not everything is a debt. He left before she could argue, closing the door quietly behind him. Olivia lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. She wanted to get up, to leave, to disappear back into her solitary life where she did not have to feel the uncomfortable warmth of gratitude. But her leg throbbed with every heartbeat, and she knew she could not walk far even if she tried. Lucas returned 20 minutes later with a tray holding beef stew, fresh bread, and coffee. The smell made Olivia's stomach clench with hunger so intense it was almost painful. He set the tray on the chair and helped her sit up, propping pillows behind her back. Eat, he said simply, handing her the bowl and a spoon. She wanted to refuse, but her body had other ideas. She ate slowly at first, then faster, until the bowl was empty and the bread was nothing but crumbs. Lucas watched her with something in his eyes that might have been sadness or anger, or both. How long have you been going hungry? He asked. I am not going hungry. I work at the boarding house. I get meals. That was true enough. She got one meal a day, usually leftovers that the boarders did not want. It was never enough, but it was something. One meal a day is not enough when you are hauling water and doing heavy work. Lucas poured coffee from the pot on the tray and handed her the cup. You are going to make yourself sick. That is my concern, not yours. Olivia sipped the coffee, letting the hot liquid warm her from the inside. Why do you care what happens to me? You do not even know me. Lucas pulled the chair closer to the bed and sat down. Maybe that is exactly why I care, because I know what it is like to be alone and too proud to ask for help. When my parents died, I was 16, and I thought I could do everything myself. Nearly starved that first winter because I would not ask the neighbors for anything, even though they offered. Took an old trail boss named Jim Copper, finding me half dead in a snowdrift to knock some sense into me. Olivia looked at him properly for the first time, seeing past her own defenses to the man in front of her. There was a steadiness to him, a quiet strength that did not demand anything in return. It frightened her more than any threat could have. I am sorry about your parents, she said quietly. And I am sorry about whatever made you so determined, never to need anyone. Lucas met her eyes, and there was understanding there, not pity. But needing help sometimes does not make you weak. It just makes you human, like I said. They sat in silence for a while, the afternoon light slanting through the window and painting everything gold. Finally, Olivia spoke. I should go. I need to get back to the boarding house before Mrs. Fletcher realizes I have been gone too long. You are not going anywhere tonight, Lucas said firmly. You lost a lot of blood and that leg needs rest. Stay here. I will go tell Mrs. Fletcher that you had an accident and you will be back tomorrow. She will not pay me if I do not work. Panic edged into Olivia's voice. She could not afford to lose even one day of wages. Then I will pay her what she would have paid you. Lucas held up a hand when Olivia started to protest. Not for you. For my own peace of mind, so I do not have to worry about you collapsing on the way back and undoing all those stitches I just put in. Call it a selfish reason if that makes it easier for you to accept. Olivia wanted to argue, but she was so tired, and the bed was softer than the thin mattress she slept on in the boarding house attic. Where will you sleep? She asked. I can get another room, or I can sleep in the chair here if you prefer not to be alone. Either way, you are taking the bed. His tone left no room for negotiation. The chair is fine, Olivia said before she could think better of it. The truth was, the idea of being alone in a strange room made her uneasy in a way she did not want to examine. At least with him here, she would know if anyone tried to come in during the night. Lucas nodded like it was settled. I am going to go talk to Mrs. Fletcher and take care of my horse. I will be back in an hour. Try to sleep if you can. After he left, Olivia did try to sleep, but her mind would not settle. She kept thinking about the way Lucas had helped her without asking anything in return, the gentleness in his hands as he stitched her wound, the understanding in his eyes. She had built her life around the principle that she needed no one, that dependence was the same as weakness. But lying here in this quiet room, she felt the first small crack in the walls she had built around herself. When Lucas returned, dusk was falling over Red Cloud. He brought more food, which Olivia ate despite her protests, and then he settled into the chair with a blanket. "Get some rest," he said. "I will be right here if you need anything." "I will not need anything," Olivia said, but there was less bite in her words than before. "Good, but I will be here anyway." Lucas tipped his hat over his eyes and appeared to fall asleep immediately, though Olivia suspected he was more alert than he seemed. She lay awake for a long time, listening to his quiet breathing, feeling the strange, unfamiliar sensation of not being entirely alone. Eventually, exhaustion won, and she drifted into the deepest sleep she had had in months. The next morning, Olivia woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. Lucas was at the washstand, shaving with a straight razor and a small mirror. He glanced over when he heard her stir. "Morning," he said. "How is the leg?" Olivia carefully moved it, testing. It hurt, but not as badly as she had expected. "Better, I think." "Good, I brought breakfast." He gestured to another tray on the table, this one with eggs, bacon, and biscuits. "Eat first, and then I will check the bandage." They fell into a routine that felt oddly comfortable. Olivia ate while Lucas finished shaving, and then he carefully unwrapped her leg to examine the wound. It looked clean, no sign of infection, and the stitches were holding. "You heal fast," he said with approval, "but you still need to take it easy for a few days. No heavy lifting, no long hours on your feet." "I have to work," Olivia said. "I cannot afford not to." Lucas rewrapped the bandage and sat back. "What if you had a different job, one that paid better and did not require you to haul water and scrub floors?" Olivia looked at him suspiciously. "What kind of job?" "The ranch I work for, the Double Bar, they are looking for a cook. The last one quit to get married, and the foreman has been complaining for weeks that the Cowboys are going to mutiny if they have to eat his cooking much longer. It pays $30 a month, plus room and board." Actual room and board, not a corner of an attic and one meal of leftovers a day. $30 a month was more than Olivia made in 2 months at the boarding house. But it was too good to be true, which meant there had to be a catch. "Why would they hire me? They do not know me." "Because I will vouch for you," Lucas said. "And because you need a better situation than the one you have got. The ranch is about 10 miles out of town, good land near the Republican River. The owner, Mr. Thornton, is a fair man. He does not cheat his workers, and he does not tolerate anyone being mistreated. You would have your own cabin, and the work is hard but honest." Olivia wanted to say no on principle. She did not want to owe Lucas Garrison anything, did not want to feel like she was accepting charity. But she also was not stupid. This was an opportunity that might not come again, and if she stayed at the boarding house, she would be old before her time, worn down by endless labor and never enough food. "I can cook," she said slowly. "My mother taught me before she died, and I am not afraid of hard work." "I know you are not." Lucas smiled, and it changed his whole face, making him look younger and more approachable. "So you will consider it?" "I will meet Mr. Thornton," Olivia said carefully. "And if he wants to hire me, I will consider it. But I am not taking the job just because you recommended me. I need to earn it myself." "I would not expect anything else from you," Lucas said, and there was respect in his voice that made something warm bloom in Olivia's chest. They spent the rest of the morning talking, carefully at first, and then with growing ease. Lucas told her about the trail drives he had been on, the places he had seen from Texas to Montana. Olivia told him about growing up on a farm in Missouri, about the mother who had taught her to read and cook and plant a garden. She did not tell him about her father or why she had left, and Lucas did not push. By afternoon, Olivia insisted she was well enough to return to the boarding house. Lucas helped her walk there, keeping his stride slow to match hers. Mrs. Fletcher, a broad woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, looked Olivia over when they arrived. Mr. Garrison explained about your accident, she said, her tone suggesting she suspected there was more to the story. Can you work tonight? Yes, madam, Olivia said, even though her leg was already aching. Actually, Lucas interjected smoothly, Miss Grant will be leaving your employment. She has accepted a position as cook at the Double Bar Ranch. Mrs. Fletcher's eyebrows rose. Has she now? Olivia opened her mouth to correct him, to explain that she had not actually accepted anything yet, but Lucas gave her a look that stopped her. Yes, madam. She will be leaving tomorrow. I am here to collect her wages and help her gather her things. For a moment, Olivia thought Mrs. Fletcher would argue, but the older woman just shrugged. Suit yourself. I will have your wages ready in an hour. Do not expect a reference. I do not need one, Olivia said quietly. Once they were upstairs, in the tiny attic room that Olivia called home, she rounded on Lucas. You cannot just decide things for me. I said I would consider the job, not that I was taking it. You were going to say no, Lucas said calmly, looking around the sparse space. There was a narrow bed with a thin blanket, a crate that served as a table, and a single dress hanging from a nail on the wall. You are going to stay here because you are too stubborn to accept help, even when it is the smart thing to do. Maybe I like my independence, Olivia shot back. There is a difference between independence and self-destruction. Lucas turned to face her, and there was something intense in his expression. I saw my mother work herself to death trying to keep our farm going after my father got sick. She would not ask for help, would not accept it when it was offered, and by the time she finally admitted she could not do it alone, it was too late. I am not going to watch you do the same thing. The passion in his words caught Olivia off guard. Why do you care so much? You just met me yesterday. Lucas was quiet for a long moment. Because when I saw you bleeding in that alley, trying to pretend you were fine, I saw myself at 16. I saw every time I went hungry because I was too proud to ask for help. Every time I nearly got myself killed because I would not admit I needed someone. And I thought if I could help you now, maybe I could make up for all the help I refused back then. Olivia sat down on the edge of the bed, her leg grateful for the rest. That does not make sense. Helping me does not change what happened to you. Maybe not, but it might keep you from making the same mistakes. Lucas crouched down so he was at eye level with her. Look, I am not trying to take away your independence or make you feel like you owe me. I am just trying to give you a chance at something better. What you do with that chance is entirely up to you. But at least give yourself the option. Meet Mr. Thornton, see the ranch, and then decide. Olivia looked into his eyes, those winter sky eyes that saw too much, and felt her resistance crumbling. All right, she said finally. I will meet him, but if I do not like the situation, I am coming back here and you are not going to try to stop me. Deal, Lucas said, holding out his hand. She shook it, feeling the calluses on his palm, the strength in his grip. You are infuriatingly persistent. You know that? I have been told that before, Lucas said with a grin, usually right before someone admits I was right. Despite herself, Olivia smiled. It felt strange on her face, like a muscle she had forgotten how to use. The next morning, Lucas rented a wagon and drove Olivia out to the Double Bar Ranch. The ride took about 2 hours, following the Republican River through rolling grassland that stretched to the horizon. It was beautiful country, green from the summer rains, dotted with wildflowers and the occasional stand of cottonwood trees. The ranch itself was impressive, with a large main house, several barns and outbuildings, and a bunkhouse for the cowboys. The cabin that would be hers if she took the job was small but solid, with a real floor and a stove and a window that looked out toward the river. Mr. Thornton was a man in his 50s, weathered by sun and wind but with kind eyes. He interviewed Olivia in the main house, asking her about her experience and what she could cook. She answered honestly, neither exaggerating nor downplaying her skills. After an hour, he stood and shook her hand. "You are hired, Miss Grant. $30 a month, room and board included. You will cook 3 meals a day for the ranch hands and any guests we might have. Sundays you get the afternoon off. That sound fair to you?" "Yes, sir," Olivia said, feeling something like hope unfurling in her chest. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow, if you are up to it." "Lucas says you had an injury?" "It is healing well," Olivia said. "I can work." Mr. Thornton nodded approvingly. "I like your attitude. Welcome to the double bar, Miss Grant." Lucas helped her move into the cabin that afternoon. Her possessions fit into a single bag, but the cabin made her feel rich. It had a real bed with a feather mattress, a table and chairs, shelves for supplies, and that wonderful stove. There was even a rocking chair by the window. "What do you think?" Lucas asked, watching her explore the space. "I think it is the nicest place I have lived since I left home," Olivia said quietly. She ran her hand over the smooth wood of the table. "Thank you for pushing me to come here." "You are welcome." Lucas leaned against the doorframe, his hat in his hands. "I bunk with the other hands, so I am just across the yard if you need anything. And I promise I will stop being overbearing now that you are settled." Olivia turned to look at him. "I do not think you are overbearing. Infuriating, maybe, but not overbearing." He laughed at that, a warm sound that made her smile again. "I will take infuriating. See you at supper? I am cooking it, so yes, you will see me." She hesitated, then added, "Lucas, thank you, really." "Really, you are welcome," he said. And then he was gone, leaving her alone in her new home. Olivia threw herself into the work with determination. She woke before dawn to start the breakfast fire, cooked huge meals for hungry cowboys, and spent her evenings planning the next day's menu. The hands were appreciative, complimenting her biscuits and her stew and her dried apple pie. Mr. Thornton told her after the first week that she was the best cook they had ever had, and even gave her a small raise. Lucas ate every meal with the other hands, but Olivia found herself watching for him, noticing when he complimented her cooking or stayed behind to help clean up. He never overstepped, never made her feel pressured or uncomfortable, but there was something in the way he looked at her that made her heart beat faster. One evening in late September, after the supper dishes were done, Lucas knocked on her cabin door. "Want to take a walk?" he asked. "The sunset is going to be beautiful tonight." Olivia almost said no out of habit, but she caught herself. "All right," she said instead. They walked along the river, the sky turning gold and pink and orange above them. The air was cooler now, with the first hint of fall. Olivia's leg had healed well, leaving only a thin scar that ached sometimes when the weather changed. "You have been here almost 2 months," Lucas said. "How are you finding it?" "I like it," Olivia admitted. "The work is hard, but it is good, and I like having my own space. I can save money now, maybe one day have enough to buy a little piece of land of my own." "That is a good dream," Lucas said. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, and then he added, "Can I ask you something? And you can tell me to mind my own business if you want." "All right," Olivia said cautiously. "What happened to make you so afraid of depending on anyone?" Olivia stopped walking, staring out at the river. For a long moment, she did not think she would answer. But something about the golden light and the quiet and Lucas's patient presence made the words come easier. "My father was a good man when my mother was alive," she said slowly. "But after she died, he fell apart. He started drinking, and then he started gambling. By the time I was 15, we had lost everything. He sold the farm to pay his debts, and the man who bought it thought I came with the property." Her voice went flat. "I ran before he could make that official." Lucas was quiet, but she could feel anger radiating from him. "Did he hurt you?" "He tried. I got away." Olivia looked at him. I have been on my own since then. 3 years of learning that the only person I can rely on is myself. So when you helped me, when you pushed me to come here, it scared me because I do not know how to accept help without feeling like I am giving up control. You are not giving up control by letting people care about you, Lucas said gently. You are just letting yourself be part of something bigger than survival. I do not know how to do that, Olivia whispered. Then maybe it is time to learn. Lucas reached out and carefully took her hand. I am not going anywhere, Olivia, and I am not going to hurt you or betray you or make you regret trusting me. I give you my word. Olivia looked down at their joined hands, his tanned and calloused from years of ranch work, hers reddened from cooking and cleaning. It should have felt wrong, letting someone in after so long, but instead it felt right in a way that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. I do not know if I can be what you might want, she said honestly. I have spent so long alone that I do not know how to be any other way. I am not asking you to change who you are, Lucas said. I am just asking for a chance. Take all the time you need. I will be here. They stood there as the sun sank below the horizon, painting the world in shades of purple and indigo. And for the first time in 3 years, Olivia let herself imagine a future that included someone other than herself. Over the following weeks, Lucas courted her with a patience that amazed her. He brought her wildflowers he found on the range. He taught her to ride properly, not just the desperate fleeing ride she had made from Missouri, but real riding, where you and the horse moved together. He told her stories that made her laugh, listened when she talked, and never pushed for more than she was ready to give. In return, Olivia began to open up, slowly at first, and then with growing confidence. She told him about her mother's garden, about the books they had read together by lamplight, about dreams she had given up when her father lost the farm. Lucas listened to all of it, and he never made her feel foolish for wanting things she thought were out of reach. By the time November arrived, bringing cold winds and early snow, Olivia had admitted to herself what she had been trying to deny. She was falling in love with Lucas Garrison, and the realization was both wonderful and terrifying. The first real snow came on a Saturday night. Olivia had just finished cleaning up after supper when Lucas appeared at her cabin door, covered in white flakes. "Can I come in?" he asked. "It is getting bad out here." She stepped aside to let him enter, closing the door against the wind. Lucas stamped the snow off his boots and hung his coat on the peg by the door. "I wanted to make sure you had enough wood for the stove," he said. "This storm looks like it might last a while." "I have enough," Olivia said. "But thank you for checking." They stood there awkwardly for a moment, and then Lucas said, "I should probably go before it gets worse." "Or you could stay," Olivia said, the words coming out before she could stop them. "I mean, it is dangerous to be out in this. You could sleep in the chair like you did at the hotel." Lucas looked at her, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Olivia said, and she was. "I am sure." He stayed, and they sat by the stove talking late into the night. They talked about everything and nothing, their pasts and their futures, their fears and their hopes. At some point, Olivia reached out and took his hand, and Lucas laced his fingers through hers. "I am glad you helped me that day," Olivia said softly, "even though I did not want you to." "I am glad I did not listen to you," Lucas said with a smile. "Most stubborn woman I ever met." "Takes one to know one," Olivia shot back, and they both laughed. When the laughter faded, Lucas grew serious. "Olivia, I need to tell you something, and I do not want you to feel pressured. You can say no, and nothing will change between us, all right?" "All right," Olivia said, her heart suddenly pounding. "I love you," Lucas said simply. "I think I started falling for you the moment I saw you in that alley. Too stubborn to admit you were dying. You are the strongest, bravest, most infuriating woman I have ever known, and I love everything about you. I want to build a life with you if you will have me. but only if that is what you want too. I will not push you or rush you or make you feel like you have to say yes. Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like that, with such honesty and vulnerability. I love you too, she whispered. I did not think I could let myself love anyone, but you made it impossible not to. Lucas cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away the tears that had started to fall. Can I kiss you? Yes, Olivia breathed, and when his lips met hers, it felt like coming home. The storm raged outside, but inside the cabin was warm and safe. They kissed until Olivia was dizzy with it, until she felt like she might fly apart from the joy and the fear and the overwhelming rightness of being in his arms. When they finally pulled apart, Lucas rested his forehead against hers. Marry me, he said. Not right away if you are not ready. But someday. Marry me and let me spend the rest of my life proving that you can trust me. Someday, Olivia agreed. When I am ready. That is all I ask, Lucas said. He did sleep in the chair that night, though they held hands across the space between the chair and the bed until they both drifted off. When Olivia woke in the morning to a world transformed by snow, she felt transformed too. For the first time in years, she was not alone, and she was not afraid. The winter passed in a blur of work and stolen moments together. Lucas proposed officially in March, on a sunny day when the snow was finally melting and the first green shoots were appearing. He gave her a ring that had belonged to his mother, a simple gold band with a small diamond that caught the light. Olivia cried when she said yes. Happy tears this time. They were married in April in the little church in Red Cloud, with Mr. Thornton and the ranch hands as witnesses. Olivia wore a new dress that she had bought with her own saved money, light blue like a spring sky. Lucas wore his best suit and could not stop smiling. After the wedding, they moved into a larger cabin that Mr. Thornton had built for them as a wedding gift. It had 2 rooms and a proper kitchen, and Olivia loved every inch of it. She continued to cook for the ranch hands, and Lucas continued to work the cattle, but now they came home to each other every night. Their first year of marriage was not without challenges. Olivia still struggled sometimes with accepting help, with believing that Lucas would not leave or betray her. Lucas struggled with his own temper when he saw how hard she pushed herself, how she still sometimes skipped meals to make sure there was enough for everyone else. But they learned together. Lucas learned to step back and let Olivia figure things out on her own when she needed to. Olivia learned to ask for help when she needed it, to trust that Lucas would be there without judgment or conditions. In the spring of 1880, Olivia discovered she was pregnant. The news terrified and delighted her in equal measure. Lucas was overjoyed, immediately trying to take over all her heavy work until she told him firmly that she was pregnant, not fragile. I just want to take care of you, he protested. I know, Olivia said, softening. But you take care of me by trusting me to know my own limits. I promise I will not overdo it. Their son was born in December of that year, a healthy baby boy with Lucas's dark hair and Olivia's stubborn chin. They named him Thomas, after Lucas's father. Holding him for the first time, Olivia felt a rush of love so intense it almost frightened her. This tiny person was depending on her completely, trusting her to keep him safe and fed and loved. You are going to be a wonderful mother, Lucas whispered, his arm around her shoulders as they looked down at their sleeping son. I hope so, Olivia said. I want to give him everything I did not have. Safety, stability, parents who love each other. He will have all that and more, Lucas promised. Mr. Thornton was delighted with the baby and insisted that Olivia take time off from cooking to care for Thomas. He hired a temporary cook and told Olivia her job would be waiting whenever she was ready to come back. But after a few months, Olivia realized she did not want to go back to cooking for the ranch hands full time. She wanted to spend her days with her son, watching him grow and change. When she told Lucas, he just smiled. Then do not go back. We have been saving money, and Mr. Thornton pays me well. We can manage on my wages, but I want to contribute. Olivia protested. I do not want to just sit around while you work. You are raising our son. That is not sitting around. That is the most important work there is. Lucas kissed her forehead. But if you want to earn money, you could take in sewing or baking. Several of the hands have asked if you would make them pies to send to their families. So Olivia started a small business baking pies and bread to sell in town and to the ranch hands. It was work she could do from home while caring for Thomas, and it brought in enough money that she felt like she was contributing to their household. The years passed peacefully. Thomas grew into a lively, curious boy who followed his father around the ranch whenever he was allowed. In 1883, Olivia gave birth to a daughter they named Catherine, a tiny thing with wispy blonde hair and her mother's dark eyes. 2 years later, another son arrived, whom they named Samuel. With 3 children and her baking business, Olivia was busier than she had ever been, but she was happy in a way she had never imagined possible. Lucas was a devoted father, patient with the children, and always ready to help with the endless work that came with raising a family. One evening in the summer of 1886, when Thomas was 5, Catherine 3, and Samuel just a year old, the family sat on the porch of their cabin watching the sunset. Thomas was pestering his father with questions about horses, Catherine was playing with a rag doll, and Samuel was dozing on Olivia's lap. Lucas reached over and took Olivia's free hand. Do you remember the day we met? He asked. How could I forget? Olivia said with a smile. I was bleeding to death in an alley, and you would not leave me alone. Best decision I ever made, Lucas said. Not leaving you alone, I mean. Best thing that ever happened to me, Olivia said quietly. Even though I would have died before admitting it at the time. You almost did die, Lucas reminded her. That is the whole point. Olivia laughed. I was not that bad. You absolutely were that bad. You looked like you were ready to punch me for daring to offer help. Lucas squeezed her hand. I am glad you let me help you. Glad you trusted me. I am glad you did not give me a choice, Olivia admitted. If you had listened to me that day, I would still be hauling water at that boarding house, or more likely, dead in that alley. Do not, Lucas said, his voice suddenly fierce. Do not think about that. Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder, careful not to wake Samuel. I am not. I am thinking about how lucky I am, how lucky we are. I never thought I could have this, a family, a home, someone who loves me. You have all that and more, Lucas said. You have a husband who adores you, even when you are being impossibly stubborn. 3 children who worship you. A home that you built with your own strength and courage. You did this, Olivia. You took the chance I offered and turned it into something beautiful. We did this, Olivia corrected. Together. Thomas abandoned his questions about horses and climbed into his father's lap. Papa, why are you and Mama being mushy? Lucas laughed and ruffled his son's hair. Because sometimes grown-ups need to be mushy. You will understand when you are older. I am never going to be mushy, Thomas declared with the certainty of a 5-year-old. Mushy is silly. We will see about that, Olivia said with a smile. As the sun sank below the horizon and the stars began to appear, the family sat together in comfortable silence. Catherine fell asleep with her head on Olivia's arm, and Thomas dozed against his father's chest. Samuel slept on, peaceful and oblivious. Lucas looked at Olivia over the heads of their children, and the love in his eyes made her breath catch. Thank you, he mouthed silently. For what? She mouthed back. For trusting me. For letting me love you. For this. He gestured at their sleeping children, at the cabin behind them, at the life they had built together. Olivia felt tears sting her eyes, happy tears that seemed to come so much easier now than they used to. Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing something worth saving when I was too stubborn to save myself. They sat there until the children were deeply asleep, and then carefully carried them inside to bed. After tucking them in, Lucas and Olivia stood together in the doorway, watching their children sleep. "Three children," Olivia said softly. "I never imagined having even one, and now we have three." "Do you want more?" Lucas asked. Olivia considered. "Maybe, someday, but I am happy with what we have right now." "Me too," Lucas said. He pulled her into his arms, and she went willingly, resting her head against his chest and listening to the steady beat of his heart. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other in the quiet cabin. Then Lucas said, "I love you, Olivia Garrison, more than I can ever put into words." "I love you too," Olivia whispered, "more than I ever thought I could love anyone. You saved my life that day in the alley, but you did more than that. You taught me how to live again, how to trust and hope and love. You gave me back everything I thought I had lost. You gave me a family," Lucas said, "a home, a reason to come back every night. You gave me everything I ever wanted and things I did not even know I needed." They kissed then, gentle and sweet, a promise and a reminder of all they had built together. When they finally pulled apart, Olivia smiled up at her husband. "Come on," she said, taking his hand. "Let's go to bed. Tomorrow is going to be another long day." "Every day with you is a good day," Lucas said as they walked to their bedroom. "Even the long ones." The years continued to pass, bringing both joys and challenges. There were hard winters and dry summers, years when the cattle prices were low and money was tight. There were illnesses and injuries, worries about the children, disagreements that had to be worked through. But through it all, Lucas and Olivia faced everything together, their love growing stronger with each passing year. In 1889, Mr. Thornton decided to retire and offered to sell Lucas a portion of the ranch. It was a generous price, more than fair, and with their savings and a loan from the bank, Lucas and Olivia were able to buy 300 acres of good grazing land along the river. They built a new house, bigger than the cabin, but not so large that it felt impersonal. It had a proper kitchen for Olivia, a study where Lucas could manage the ranch accounts, and bedrooms enough for their growing family. In 1890, Olivia gave birth to twin girls, whom they named Elizabeth and Margaret. With 5 children and a ranch to run, life was busier than ever, but Olivia had never been happier. Thomas grew into a responsible young man who loved the ranch as much as his father did. He learned everything Lucas could teach him about cattle and horses and managing land. Catherine was quieter, more bookish, spending her free time reading or helping her mother with the younger children. Samuel was the adventurous one, always getting into some scrape or another, keeping his parents on their toes. The twins were still too young to have distinct personalities, but they were happy, healthy babies who filled the house with laughter. On a warm evening in June of 1892, the family gathered for supper on the porch of their house. It was a tradition they had maintained from their cabin days, eating outside whenever the weather allowed. The children chattered and argued and laughed, and Lucas and Olivia watched over them with contentment. After the meal, when the younger children had been put to bed, Thomas asked his parents to tell the story of how they met. It had become a favorite tale, one the children never seemed to tire of hearing. Lucas looked at Olivia, a question in his eyes. She nodded, and he began. "Well, it was a hot day in August of 1878. I was in Red Cloud to buy supplies, and as I was riding past the livery stable, I saw a young woman bleeding in an alley." "And you helped her even though she did not want help," Catherine added. She had heard the story so many times she knew it by heart. "That is right," Lucas said. "Your mother was the most stubborn person I had ever met. She was bleeding something fierce, but she insisted she was fine." "I was not that bad," Olivia protested, as she always did. "Yes, you were," Lucas said, as he always did. "But I helped her anyway, because I could see she needed it even if she would not admit it." "And then you fell in love?" Thomas asked. "Not right away," Olivia said. "Your father had to be very patient with me. I did not trust easily back then. I had been on my own for a long time, and I thought depending on anyone was the same as being weak. But Papa taught you that was not true, Catherine said. He did, Olivia agreed, smiling at her husband. He taught me that accepting help does not make you weak, it makes you human. And he taught me that love is not about losing your independence, it is about choosing to share your life with someone you trust. And now you have us, Samuel said proudly. Now we have you, Lucas confirmed, pulling his son into a hug. And you are the best thing that ever happened to us. As the children drifted off to their rooms, leaving Lucas and Olivia alone on the porch, they sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge. Do you ever think about that day? Lucas asked. Really think about it? All the time, Olivia said. I think about the girl I was, so afraid and so alone, and I think about how different my life would have been if you had not stopped to help. I would have bled to death in that alley, or I would have survived and continued living that half-life, too stubborn to accept that there was a better way. I am glad I stopped, Lucas said, even though you tried to send me away. I am glad you did not listen to me, Olivia said. You never did have much respect for my opinions. Lucas laughed. That is not true. I have tremendous respect for your opinions. I just also know when you are wrong. Olivia elbowed him gently in the ribs. Arrogant man. Stubborn woman, Lucas countered, but his voice was warm with affection. They sat there for a long time, holding hands and counting stars, grateful for the life they had built together. A life that had started with a stubborn woman who would not ask for help if she was dying, and a cowboy who helped her anyway and won her trust. In the years that followed, the ranch prospered. Lucas proved to be an excellent rancher, and Olivia's careful management of their household finances kept them stable even in difficult times. Their children grew up strong and healthy, each finding their own path in the world, but never straying far from the home their parents had built. Thomas eventually took over the ranch, marrying a school teacher from Red Cloud and raising his own family on the land. Catherine married a lawyer and moved to Omaha, but she returned often for visits, bringing her children to run wild on the ranch just as she had done. Samuel, true to his adventurous nature, left to explore the territories, but always came home for holidays and important occasions. The twins, Elizabeth and Margaret, were inseparable, eventually opening a dress shop together in Red Cloud. Lucas and Olivia grew old together, their love deepening with each passing year. They celebrated their 25th anniversary in 1904, surrounded by their children and grandchildren, reflecting on the incredible journey they had taken together. On a quiet evening in the spring of 1910, when they were both in their 50s, they sat on the porch of their home just as they had done countless times before. Lucas's hair was now silver, and Olivia's had threads of white running through it, but their hands were still intertwined, their love still as strong as the day they had married. Do you have any regrets? Olivia asked suddenly. About your life? Lucas thought about it, really thought about it. No, he said finally, not a single one. Every choice I made led me to you, to this life, to our family. How could I regret any of that? Even the hard times, Olivia pressed. The winters when we barely scraped by? The times when I was difficult and stubborn? Especially those times, Lucas said, because those times taught us how strong we are together. And you are still difficult and stubborn, by the way. Some things never change. Olivia laughed. And you are still impossibly patient and annoyingly right most of the time. Most of the time? Lucas raised an eyebrow. I am always right. There is that arrogance again, Olivia said, but she was smiling. Lucas stood and held out his hand. Dance with me. There is no music, Olivia pointed out. We will make our own, Lucas said. So they danced on the porch in the gathering dusk, moving slowly to a rhythm only they could hear. It was not graceful or fancy, just two people who had spent more than 30 years learning to move through life together. Thank you, Olivia whispered as they swayed. For what? For everything. For stopping that day in the alley. for not giving up on me when I tried to push you away, for loving me even when I did not know how to love you back, for giving me this life, this family, this home, for all of it. Lucas held her closer. You gave me just as much, Olivia. You gave me a reason to stay in one place, to build something lasting. You gave me a family when I thought I would always be alone. You taught me that being stubborn is not always a bad thing, and that the best things in life are worth fighting for. They stood there holding each other as the stars came out, the same stars they had watched together for more than 30 years. And Olivia thought about the frightened girl she had been, bleeding in an alley and too proud to ask for help. That girl could never have imagined this life, this love, this profound sense of belonging. I was dying that day, she said quietly. Not just from the wound, I was dying inside, from loneliness and fear and the belief that I had to face the world alone. You did not just save my life. You brought me back to life. We saved each other, Lucas said. I was dying too, just in a different way, going through the motions but not really living. And then I met you, and suddenly I had a reason to wake up every morning, a reason to work hard and plan for the future. You gave me that. They kissed then, soft and sweet, and full of 3 decades of love and trust and partnership. When they finally went inside, they walked hand in hand, still moving together in perfect rhythm. The years continued their steady march, bringing changes and challenges, but always they faced them together. They celebrated the births of grandchildren and eventually great-grandchildren. They weathered droughts and economic hardships. They lost friends and loved ones, grieving together and supporting each other through the pain. But through it all, the love that had started in an alley in Red Cloud when a cowboy refused to let a stubborn woman die alone remained constant and true. It was a love built on trust, earned through patience, on respect forged through understanding, on partnership created through years of working side by side. On a bright morning in October of 1925, Lucas and Olivia celebrated their 47th wedding anniversary. They were both in their 70s now, moving slower but still sharp in mind and heart. Their children threw them a party at the ranch, 3 generations gathering to honor the love that had created their family. As the celebration wound down and the last guests departed, Lucas and Olivia found themselves alone on the porch once more. The sun was setting, painting the Nebraska sky in shades of orange and gold, just as it had done on countless evenings before. 47 years, Olivia marveled. Sometimes it feels like just yesterday that you found me in that alley. Other times it feels like we have always been together. It feels right, Lucas said simply. Like this is exactly how it was always meant to be. Olivia rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing. I love you, Lucas Garrison. I have loved you for more than 47 years, and I will love you for whatever time we have left. I love you too, Olivia Garrison, Lucas said, kissing the top of her head. Thank you for trusting me all those years ago. Thank you for taking a chance on a stubborn cowboy who would not take no for an answer. Thank you for being too stubborn to listen when I told you to leave me alone, Olivia said. Thank you for seeing something in me worth saving when I could not see it myself. They sat together as the sun sank below the horizon. 2 people who had built a life on the foundation of that one moment when a cowboy decided to help a woman who would not ask for help if she was dying. It had been the best decision either of them had ever made, and as they held hands in the gathering darkness, they knew that their love would endure long after they were gone, living on in their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The ranch they had built, the family they had raised, the love they had nurtured, all of it was a testament to the power of trust and patience and refusing to give up on someone even when they had given up on themselves. It was a legacy of love that would continue for generations, all because a cowboy helped a stubborn woman in an alley in Red Cloud, Nebraska in the summer of 1878. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, Lucas and Olivia went inside their home, the home they had filled with love and laughter and life. They climbed into the bed they had shared for nearly 5 decades, holding each other close as they had done every night since their wedding day. "Good night, my love," Lucas whispered. "Good night," Olivia whispered back. And in the peace and comfort of their shared life, surrounded by the evidence of their love in every corner of the home they had built together, they drifted off to sleep, grateful for every moment of the beautiful life that had started with one act of stubborn kindness on a hot August day so many years before. Their story was one of healing and growth, of learning to trust when trust seemed impossible, of building something beautiful from broken pieces. It was a story of love found in the most unlikely circumstances, nurtured with patience and care, and sustained through years of partnership and devotion. And it was a story that proved that sometimes the best things in life come when we are brave enough to accept help, and when someone is stubborn enough to offer it, even when it is not wanted. Lucas and Olivia Garrison lived many more years together on their beloved ranch, never taking for granted the miracle of their love. When Lucas eventually passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 82, Olivia held his hand and told him one last time how grateful she was that he had not listened to her that day in the alley. And when Olivia followed him 2 years later, she went with a heart full of love and a life full of blessings, all stemming from the moment when a cowboy helped a woman who would not ask for help, and in doing so, won her trust and her heart forever. Their children and grandchildren gathered at the ranch to lay them to rest side by side, the headstones bearing simple inscriptions that told the story of their love. Lucas's read, "A man who saw someone in need and refused to look away." Olivia's read, "A woman who learned that accepting love is the bravest thing of all." And in the generations that followed, their descendants would tell the story of how Lucas and Olivia met, passing down the tale of stubborn love and hard-won trust, ensuring that their legacy would live on forever in the hearts of those who came after them. The ranch remained in the family, each generation adding their own chapter to the story, but always remembering the foundation that Lucas and Olivia had laid, built on the simple but profound truth that sometimes helping someone who will not ask for help is the greatest act of love possible.